Now, I'm very pleased to welcome back to the show two of the best horse racing handicappers that I know in Mr. Shawn Knoche and Patrick Gates from the Odds Breakers. You can follow them, I should say, at Twitter at The Great Knoche and at Gator Betting. Boys, here we are 2 weeks later. We got the Preakness, and it's in Baltimore, Maryland. How the heck are you guys doing this week? Shawn, I'll ask you first.
I'm doing awesome.
Well, you got a beer in your hand, so you must be doing good, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Look at that.
Background not showing up. Need that green scheme a little better in front of me. A little Heineken Silver for race weekend here.
All right, Heineken Silver. There you go.
Delicious stuff. Looking forward to the meat between the bread. The Preakness steak. Let's go.
The meat between the bread. Here we go. And Patrick, what's up, man? How about that first round of the PGA tournament? Shuffle just had a hell of a round, 62. Shuffle.
Yeah, Shoffley loves to just go out to the lead on a Thursday, and we've seen it at the Players. We've seen it last week at the Wells Fargo. He'll choke Sunday. I've bet him too many times. He's burned me so many goddamn times. We'll see what happens with him. I mean, you still have Scheffler sitting there at 4 under. He eagles the first hole today, holes out from like 160, and you're just sitting there. You're like, fuck, here he goes again. But no, great first round of the PGA Championship. Morikawa's up there, Homa's up there, so Ron rallied on the back nine. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, good. Another great weekend of racing here ahead. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, how pissed would you be if Shoffley wins now after you don't bet him? So there you go. That's
I'd be so pissed. He's won me a little bit of money, but yeah, I'd still be pissed.
We should bet him. We should bet him now.
I was gonna say I'll reverse jinx him and find him a play not to win, and I'll make sure he comes in first. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
my golf betting never seems to work out.
He did the same thing at the U.S. Open last year at L.A. Country Club. Him and Ricky went out and fired low numbers, and we know how that ended up. So.
Yeah. Well,
wait for his weekend collapse.
Did it rain much today? I didn't watch much. I just followed on the apps.
A little bit, not too bad. It kind of played soft in the afternoon, but no, guys kind of took advantage of it early on, and a few of the big guys in the afternoon. So kind of what you expected in a major championship. Brooks is up there. Bryson played well, so should be an exciting weekend. The leaderboard's pretty good.
All right. Well, here we are. We're talking weather still, though, because I'm curious about Friday and Saturday in Baltimore, Maryland. I looked at Saturday. It wasn't looking pretty. Any updates here? Shawn, I'll ask you.
We're kind of running to the same stuff we saw at the Derby. Friday's actually going to be better than Derby Friday was, so it looks good for Friday. So they should have a nice firm track tomorrow. But Saturday right now, 85% chance of rain at some point during the day, and they're looking at 70% chance at 5 p.m. Baltimore time. So pretty good chance that we're going to be looking at a sloppy racetrack on Saturday for the actual Preakness.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That's just how it goes sometimes. And, it could rain all day. You never know. It could be really muddy and really sloppy. I'm thinking, Patrick, you thinking the same thing?
Yeah. I talked with Shawn, and I think we're on the same page here. It looks like it's going to rain a little bit too. I was at the Preakness a few years ago, and it just downpoured, and you know how that infield goes. It's just absolute chaos. You got people losing shoes in there, people running across porta potties. It's a shit show, to put it lightly, especially when it rains down in Pimlico this week.
If you've never been Kiev, it's not the nicest racetrack of the 3 Triple Crowns, and probably not the nicest racetrack of about 20 of them that I've been to. So not my favorite spot to watch a race, except for this one Saturday. That's the time to go, because the rest of the time it's not the spot you want to be. But
yeah, I don't think I bet I don't think I bet a single race that day, but I had enough beer, so that's kind of how the Preakness goes.
Well, I've had enough mud at Arlington and Chicago for my day anyway, so before they close that shop. But hey, we got some weather on Saturday, but let's look at the Black-Eyed Susan on Friday here. Field of Phillies here. So same deal as kind of like the Triple Crown races. They always have your big Philly race in the Friday. Let's start with Patrick. Have you looked at the field? Do you have any thoughts or a winner or long shot in this one?
Yeah, I talked with Shawn earlier, and I think it's a pretty competitive field, honestly, when you compare it to the Preakness here. It's going to be a very, very fast pace, unlike the Preakness that we saw. There's a few horses in here. You got Gunsong, Who Could Ask for Mo, Corpusalo, Recharge, and Call Another Play. I think those are kind of your 5 that you can narrow down this field into. Jeannie Marie and Ringy Ding here are just two tosses, the 1 and the 2. I just don't think they belong in this race at all here. In terms of a favorite here, I'm kind of between Gunsong, who's at 9-2 right now, so it's 4.5 to 1, and then Corposo, excuse me, at that 2.5 to 1 spot. So I like both of those here. Corposo ran a decent race in his last out in the Santa Anita Oaks, posting a decent speed figure. He finished third, but not his best race. We saw kind of the week before he took a little bit of a step back in terms of speed figures. Gunsong again in that last race in the Gulfstream Park Oaks, that grade 2 stakes, got bumped at the start and didn't have a great trip, but still managed to run 4th there. And then that 6, Who Could Ask for Mo, his speed figures keep increasing here. And again, in that last race where he finished 4th, got bumped in that one. So those are kind of who I'm looking for in terms of the horses that I like. The 6 and probably the 4 are going to be the 2 long shots that I look to target in this one. That call another
7,
play.
6, 4.
The
7,
6 and the
7,
4 are
6,
going to be the long shots that I target. And the 5 and the 7 are going to be the 2 favorites that I kind of look to build my card around. So I haven't exactly narrowed down the card per se, but that's kind of where I'm headed in this direction.
All right, makes sense here. So kind of right down there, 4, 5, 6, 7, right there. Lemon Muffin at 4 to 1. That's the one that you're ignoring. Or no, that's one of the key ones. Or one of the.
No, I'm ignoring Lemon Muffin.
Okay, that's number 3.
Yeah, I last race was tough too at the Kentucky Oaks. So short layoff here. Finished 8th in that one, and I mean we've seen the speed figures drop in 2 consecutive races here. While she did race well in the Honeybee. I don't know. I just don't love this horse, and especially at 4 to 1 odds. I think there's other options on the board to look to.
Shawn, any agreement, or you have your own long shots you want to go with?
Yeah, I think we've got the same shape up of the race here. I think this is going to be an extremely fast pace out of the gate. You're looking at the 8 and 7 both having to come across, and they both are going to want the lead, Corposo and Recharge. Gunsong is going to want to be up there, at least tucked in right behind him, and the 1 on the rail, Jeannie Marie, also has to go. So those 4 are going to be running for the front. When you get 4 horses up that quick, and 3 of them got some pretty fast speed ratings, they're going to want to have that lead. They're going to want to be on the inside track. I think there's going to be a lot of energy spent early in this one, and I think that sets up well for the closer, who's Who Could Ask for Mo. Going to be the one all the way at the back. They're going to be the 8th horse coming around that first turn. And I certainly think it sets up well for them. They're going to have a nice, easy trip, just waiting until the end, and then they're going to be able to go. I don't think they're going to sit as far back as they did the last race. I think adding blinkers shows that they're actually going to want to get a little bit up there and go a little bit with the pace, but they're still going to be the number 8 horse coming in, and with this much speed up front, unless Corposo or Recharge decides they want to wire the field, I like it set up for a closer coming in, and that would be the Who Could Ask for Mo. So I'm playing the 6 at 6 to 1. I've got this at 6, 7, 8, 3.
All right, so you kind of put the 3 in there, 6, 7, 8, 3. So it's like you're ignoring call another play with number 4 at 8 to 1.
Yeah, I'm fading the 5 out there in the 4. I'm with Patrick. I think the 2 long shots, Jeannie Marie and Ringy Ding, you don't have the speed to keep up with this group, especially as fast as it's going to be early on. They're going to try, and they're just going to fade out. So, yep, but I like the closer here. I think they can get it done. She's improved 2 races in a row, like Patrick said, and if this is a third, I look for her to win the Black Eyed Susan on Friday.
All right, good stuff. Well, there you go. We got agreement on 3 of the horses here, and then the 3 and the 4 and the 5. We have mostly agreement. You're going 6, 7, 8, 3, and Patrick's going kind of a combination between 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So
yeah. The only reason I like the 4 is, I mean, the last 3 races, she's kind of handled that increase in distance extremely well. Before that, she was a sprinter, and the speed figures were kind of god awful there. But you see in her last 3, they've kind of gone in the right direction here. And in terms of the best speed buyer, at least the 75, it's not far off kind of the top number in this field by any means. And at 8 to 1, if she can kind of take another step up in class here, I think she's live.
All right. Well, that's good stuff. So that's what we have for the Black Eyed Susan. Let's now get into the Triple Crown race, the Preakness Stakes here, run at Pimlico Park. And this will be the race number 13, right? Lucky number 13. and a little rain. So we got rain to talk about, but we have a favorite. And thank you for switching the screen for me there. And it's at Mystic Dan, of course, the winner of the Kentucky Derby. And he wasn't supposed to be the favorite because Booth was an 8-5 opening favorite and got scratched. A Baffert horse getting scratched. Imagine that. What's going on with this, Shawn? Is Mystic Dan the I guess the second best horse in this class, a deserving favorite?
I think he's a deserving favorite for sure. He got beat by Muth a couple times back at 7 furlongs in the San Vicente. Last time he got beat by Muth was actually in the Arkansas Derby in the Grade 1 in the prep race. So he's been beaten by Muth twice, with Muth not in the field. I think he didn't take well to whatever Baffert put in him when he got in the trailer on Monday and spiked a fever. So with Muth out of the picture, I think Mystic Dan has to be a favorite, and he is a deserving favorite. He's a Kentucky Derby winner. He outlasted Sierra Leone in the stretch. They're rolling back a half a furlong on this one, which gives some people less time to catch him if he does get to that front in the clear air again. And he's got a win in the mud, which I think we're looking at. It's certainly a possibility here in the Southwest Grade 3. Came around and actually beat Just Steel, who's also in this race. So I think Mystic Dan is a deserving favorite now with Muth out of here. I'm disappointed because Patrick and I talked about this. We were both disappointed. We both wanted to fade Muth in this race at that price anyway, and now it just really brings down the price on a bunch of the other horses we wanted to play. So didn't work out to our advantage with Muth going bye-bye here in the Preakness. So definitely not a race that I am excited about from a betting aspect. Obviously, I want to watch it because I love horse racing. I love the Triple Crown, but from a betting aspect, it got a lot worse with Muth leaving the field here.
Yeah, no doubt. It's funny. A lot of contrarian bettors like fading the Kentucky Derby winner, especially if they weren't on it, right?
Yeah.
That's just kind of
a little resentment for sure.
Little resentment. And us three idiots last show pointed out that, he's a mutter, Mystic Dan, if it's kind of wet. And the track was kind of wet. I know they wrote fast next to it on the PPs, but actually, no, that was a little bit of a wetter track, I think, on Saturday. It wasn't perfect. And we call it out and don't bet it. That's just how it works sometimes. And I'm kicking myself for that, but because I think I would add the combination if I did add that.
Oh yeah,
the other two in the combinations for sure. Well, that Japanese horse was really interesting. I hope they bring him back for the third race in the Belmont. But let's talk about. Well, first let me talk about Mystic Dan. What's funny is that just the fact that everybody's hating on him, and I don't think he was not the best horse in the field. He had the best trip. He would have got beat, in my opinion, if the different things happen and you add another 10 yards to that race or even 5 feet to that race, he gets beat, right?
But everything going for him.
Yeah.
He had the ideal conditions, ideal trip, like the race set up perfectly for him. It couldn't have been more ideal conditions for this horse there. Everything went right that should have went right for him to win this race. That's how it's set up.
Right. But the rest of this field is what we need to talk about here. So why don't we start with that? Because I was thinking, let's fade Mystic Dan immediately, just like everybody else. Now I'm not so sure. So why don't we talk about the horse? Let's just talk about the pace first. Patrick, who's going to be taking the lead in this race?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this black-eyed Susan pace of it's going to be quick. Now that Muth's out of the field, I don't think so at all. I think this Muth out of the field hurts one horse, and that's Catching Freedom. I think it's a less opportunity for a pace collapse here for sure. I kind of liked him when Muth was in the field. But now that he's not, I'm not so sure. And you're going to have the other Baffert horse, Imagination, in the 9-post position kind of go out to the lead along with maybe that 8 Tuscan Gold and Just Steel are going to kind of be up there as well. I think Mystic Dan and Seize the Gray are kind of the middle of the pack there. You got Mugatu, who shouldn't be in this race, but we can get to later in the back of the pack. And then your closers, Uncle Heavy and Catching Freedom. I don't think it's going to be that quick at all here. So I'm kind of interested to see. And I mean, closers haven't traditionally done well in this race, but maybe that changes this year.
Shawn, do you agree? Is it going to be a slower paced race here?
Yeah, slower pace. And again, the track conditions are going to play a big piece in this pace roll too. So, you're looking at maybe 46-3 on a fast course right now with the way this is shaping up for Imagination. You get a mud track out there and Imagination splits to the inside and everybody else decides to tuck in, you could be looking at something like 48 flat at a half mile here very easily, which is not going to set up well for catching freedom. It's going to need to set up well for a stalker or somebody right behind that group. And it's also going to set up well for somebody like Imagination potentially to wire the field, because they're not going to be gassed. They're not going to have that extra second under their belt at the half mile mark already. So I think it's going to create a situation where Mystic Dan, if he's in that stalking position in a good spot and it's muddy, is going to have the closing speed here to get around the corner, get a lead, and then not be caught from behind by catching freedom. So that's kind of where I see it shaping up. Very similar to Patrick. I think with the mud, it's a real good Mystic Dan kind of setup again.
Oh man, here we go. I actually think he might end up going 3-1 too. I don't think everyone, I know there's going to be some, I guess public money you'd call it, but it's the Preakness. It's the second part of the Triple Crown. There's going to be some people betting Mystic Dan, but I don't think it's going to be enough to take it over. I think there's going to be more money, coming up on Tucson Gold. That's what I'm starting to hear. But let's go to what we're throwing off our tickets. Shawn, let's start with you. What are we throwing off our tickets? Who are the horses that maybe don't belong, or just someone that you don't like?
Well, I'm not throwing anybody off of every ticket. Even Mugatu, who's the one that you got to look at, in exactas and tries to not play here. My Preakness is going to be an all play in my pick threes and my pick fives to close. I just think this field is wide open enough. And even Mugatu, who's the one I want to throw off because of some of the old speed ratings, he's crept up in the last couple of races in the Bluegrass, posted a 95 Equibase speed rating there. So is he in the same range as Mystic Dan putting up a 109? No, but he's also going the right direction and he's in the neighborhood, which, as we talked about on the Kentucky Derby preview, these group of 3-year-olds, if they're getting better every single time, has the ability to go out the next time and improve themselves. They haven't hit that peak by any stretch of the imagination yet. So even Mugatu, I'm not throwing out on multi-race tickets, but Uncle Heavy, I think, has a chance to hit the board. He's won a couple of races, shown some good resistance coming down the stretch, been able to close a little bit. And if the pace does get out quick, he might have a chance. But again, with the slow pace, doesn't set up super good. So those are the two. The last one, the one that I'm really not playing anywhere, is probably Seize the Gray. I think the winner of the Pat Day Mile is a phenomenal horse. I think Dwayne Lucas played the setup the way he went in the Kentucky Derby qualifiers and realized he wasn't getting in, put him in the Pat Day instead, and was able to ride that to victory. That horse is just not on the caliber to compete with some of these other ones that are in this race and showed in the Kentucky Derby preview races he was in. So if I got to throw out one, it's going to be Seize the Gray, followed by Mugatu. But again, multi-race tickets, I'm playing alls in the Preakness.
Okay, well, there you go for your pick threes, pick fours, and pick fives. Patrick, any agreement? Is there some horses you're tossing?
Yeah. So again, I have a try right now that has all in that third slot right now. So I wouldn't say I'm necessarily tossing any, but the one Mugatu, so his best race was in his last start, the Bluegrass, where he lost to Sierra Leone, Just a Touch, Epic Ride, all Kentucky Derby entrance in that one. The speed for me there, just it's not there. It doesn't match up with this field, especially kind of when you look at those higher numbers that Mystic Dan put up, Tuscan Gold starting to put up, and even Imagination has as well in this race. And his only win came on a synthetic surface, which is a little bit of a concern as well for me in this one. 2, Uncle Heavy, where you have Irod on board for his first trip on this one. And the issue with Irod is, while he's a great jockey, the horse doesn't match his caliber of kind of his ability to ride. The odds are going to be inflated. People are going to bet Uncle Heavy. They're going to see the long odds. They're going to see Irod on him and think he has a chance. So whenever Irod has a long shot, the odds are going to go down. It's just how betting works, especially with anyone who kind of bets the jockeys instead of horses here. So while he's 21 now, I can see him going around 15-1, maybe even 13-1 once we start getting closer to that post time. 5th in the Wood Memorial in his last out. And again, I just don't think he has the speed here. However, we talked about this with Mystic Dan. His 2 wins came on a good and muddy surface. So he is a mudder. So when you kind of look at that come Sunday and you see those wet conditions, he may be worth sprinkling, actually. The 4, Catching Freedom, too. While I like to, Flavien Prat won the 2021 Preakness. And this horse did win the Louisiana Derby at this mile in 3/16, which is the same distance as the Preakness here. His speed figures have been better. I just don't think this race sets up for him well now that Muth's not in the field. I have him underneath in a few tickets, but I don't think he's necessarily a factor here. So that's kind of what I have now for tosses. And then that 6 Sees the Gray. When I look at him, won the Pate Mile. I don't think the caliber of the Pate Mile was all that great this year, if we're being completely honest here. The speed figures weren't impressive at all. And you look at the few other entrants in that race, not really kind of what we see for this race or what it has been in the past. Wet surfaces, he did win once on it, but he has struggled with distance at the Jeff Ruby Stakes and the Bluegrass Stakes. So I don't really love this 6 either as well.
All right, the 6 is going to win then, it sounds like. So there you go. Well,
I mean, I love a good gray horse, but I had to take my bias out of this one and say, got to step away from this one for sure.
Okay, good stuff.
D Wayne's 88. He's one of my favorite trainers of all time, but he wants one more big win here. If he's going to be stepping away at some point, he's riding every entry he's got. He was hammering the Derby entrance this year like he hasn't for quite a while. He wanted to get that Derby back. I think he's doing the same thing here in the Preakness, and he'll have 2 horses in the Belmont too, I think. So one of my favorite trainers of all time.
Yeah, nothing he loves more than taking that private jet to a party. You know, he'll be there every big race.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what about the long shots then, or the longer shots? Like, I'm sure you guys have some ideas on how you construct your ticket. Patrick, what we like for some of the longer odds here?
Yeah, so we saw the shift when Muth went out here. Catching Freedom's now 7-2, Mystic Dance 8-5, Tuscan Gold's 9-2, and Imagination's 3-1. So you have those 4 with kind of your shorter odds horses.
Mystic Dan's at 8-5 now. He's not 2.5.
Mystic Dan's 8-5.
Oh, this changed. Yeah.
Okay. So then after that is Imagination at 3-1. Catching Freedom at 3.5-1, and then Tuscan Gold at 4.5-1. So that's kind of your order of the updated odds in that standing. And then you have Just Steel, Sees the Gray at 12-1, and Uncle Heavy and Mugatu still at that 20-1 spot. So longer odds here. I gotta say, I'm kind of staying away from them. I like I said, I don't see that 1 and 2 in here. The 6 I don't really like. If you're gonna look at a double-digit horse in this, it's got to be Just Steel. Got a terrible trip in the Derby, got bumped in that one. Second in the Arkansas Derby behind Muth. He beat Mystic Dan in that race. The issue there, only 2 wins in his 12 starts there. He finished second in the Southwest Stakes with Mystic Dan won, and then he finished second in the Smarty Jones, which Catching Freedom won. But if you look at that Arkansas Derby, it just stands out. He ran so well in this race. The pace kind of was a little bit quicker, but I think he could have a chance here at 12-1. And we talked about him in the Derby. Me and Shawn did before this, and we said we were all kind of having a feeling about him in the Derby, and then he just rides out to 17th in the Derby, and now we get him at 12-1 in the Preakness in a smaller field, and it kind of sets up nicely for him.
Yep, and the question is, can he handle the mud? That's the question. It looks like he took second to Mystic Dan actually in that muddy race back in the Southwest, right?
Yep.
So
yeah, and he got blasted coming down the stretch in that race in the mud too. That's what kind of worries me about him against Mystic Dan if they come around that corner even. But I think he's the horse that you got to look at here with the longer odds. Arkansas Derby, if you watch that race, Moose a great horse, but Just Steel was right there the entire time. He was in his hip pocket at a length and a half. Moose was able to stretch it out, I think, to 2 before the closeout, but he was right there. And if he runs that race, he wins the Preakness. But again, depends on.
Let's quick talk. No, oh, of course, absolutely. So you have agreement with possible Just Steel. Any other long shots you might? Well, I know you're going to have some alls on your ticket, but let's just say just when you key on this race, Shawn.
Yeah, I'm not touching the 1 or the 2, so or the 6. So just Steel's the only double-digit one I'm going to be looking at.
You're not touching the 1, 2, or the 6. Okay, so Just Steel. What about Tucson Gold? Because I was, that's almost. I mean, it's probably like 6-1 now. He's 9-2. 9-2. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's
really lightly raced Chad Brown horse. Finished just under 2 lengths behind Catching Freedom in the Louisiana Derby. Hasn't run since, so he's on a two-month layoff basically. Put up a 96 speed rating in that race. So if the off time helps him, he's running the same distance at 1 mile and 3/16. He's already been stretched out to that distance. I could certainly see him hitting the board or making a surprise win effort for sure. But at 5 or 6 to 1, no, thank you.
Yeah,
Tyler Gaff Leon is the jockey on this. Go ahead, Patrick.
It seems like Chad Brown has a type in the Preakness, because you look at his past 2 winners, cloud computing and early voting, and they look exactly, if not very similar, to Tuscan Gold here. Lightly raced heading into this into the Preakness here. Speed figures have been improving as well. In that Louisiana Derby there, he just lost by a nose to Anna Marie for second and was about almost 2 lengths behind Catching Freedom in that race, if I believe. Yes, Catching Freedom there. I don't know. I like this horse a lot here in this race. In his first race, he faced off against Sierra Leone, of all people. Talk about a welcome to the show moment there. And you look at Sierra Leone now as kind of one of the best 3-year-olds in the racing scene. So ran 4th in his first start, and then broke his maiden in his second. So I don't mind Tuscan Gold. Chad Brown has had some success in the past with this, and then Tyler Gaffalione again on War of Will back in 2019. So he's won this race in the past.
All right. Well, how you want to construct your ticket then, Patrick? We'll just get that run right on front and center here.
Yeah, so I have 2 win bets here. It's going to be the 8 Tuscan Gold and that 9 Baffert horse Imagination. So I have those 2 up top, and then again in an exacta, I got the 8-9 over the 3-5-7-8. And for a try, $1 try here, I got Mystic Dan up top. If this is a mud fest, there's one horse to look to, and it's Mystic Dan here. I'm not letting it beat me again. So I got the 5 over the 3-8-9 overall. I'm hoping there's kind of some value just coming in underneath, especially when we look at in terms of all, maybe Mugatu, Uncle Heavy, or Seize the Gray, Just Steel. We kind of get some price in that 3rd spot there. So I don't mind that for a try, but that's kind of what I'm looking at now.
Oh, interesting. So you're not even going to have Mystic Dan on the top of your exactas. You're just going to have just
put him in a try. I'm going to put him in a try. Yeah, that's where I think you can get some money underneath. I'm not singling him for a win or in any exactas. I got the 8-9 and an exacta on top. I'll throw him underneath, but I'm going to try to beat him in an exacta. And if he beats me, I'll hopefully catch the try with him.
All right. Well, there you go. That'd be cool. Shawn, what about you?
I'm not putting any final tickets in until Saturday, probably about 3:00 when I see what that track's going to look like. And if it's muddy like we're expecting, Mystic Dan is going to be a win bet for me. I'm probably going to Dutch him up with Just Steel. Those will be the 2 horses I'll have at the top, and big Dutching, obviously. Won't have to bet quite as much on Just Steel, but those are the 2 I think can win it in the mud right now. Exacta bets for me, I'm going to have the let's see here again. I was telling Patrick I couldn't get my printer to work, so I had to do my note sheet on the computer, and it's kind of tough flipping on that one. So I've got the 5-7 over the 3-5-7-8-9 on my exactas, and then in the trifectas I've got the 5-7 over those same horses, and that's how I'm going to play it.
All right, the 5 Mystic Dan, of course, and the 7 Just Steel with that wonderful price. So, and then yeah, you almost hit the all button with that 3-5-7-8-9. Everything under that. So I see how that works out. Obviously, I can put more on the 5-1 with your exacta. You're going to put more on the 5 and less on the 7. Right?
The exact I will. The try will not.
Right.
And there's still going to be small tickets for me with that many horses involved. I'm going to have 2 over 5 different horses there. I'm already at a pretty heavy investment on the minimum. So, but I'll have a little more on Mystic Dan. Like I said, if it's muddy, this is his race to lose. I think he's going to be the one out in front.
We haven't talked much about the 3-horse Catching Freedom. He's the only real closer in this race, and you said it would have been a lot nicer if Muth was running this race, so he would have made bigger fractions, faster fractions, so Catching Freedom could have caught him at the end. But now it kind of changed. Does the mud change? I guess the mud might change it a little bit too, right? I do like Flavian Pratt a lot. You know, Brad Cox horse, of course, right? You know, I mean, how much are we, I guess, downgrading this horse? I know his pricing good. Is it 5-2 with him too? What's going on with that one, Patrick?
Yeah, Catching Freedom is an interesting one. I mean, you mentioned Pratt. He won the 2021 Preakness with Rombauer. He finished fourth in the Derby there. Got a pretty good trip. Won the Louisiana Derby, at a mile and 3/16, which is the same distance as the Preakness here. In that race, he beat Anna Marie and Tuscan Gold here. Speed figures have been well, but again, I think Muth not kind of setting this fast pace really, really hurts him. And then again, if the mud kind of kicks up in his closing position, he's a good horse, but it's just not a race that suits him well at all.
Yeah.
Shawn,
you look at this. Yeah, you look at the Smarty Jones and the Louisiana Derby, the two races that he won. They were both super fast out of the gate. He was sitting way back at the back of the pack in 8th and 11th. The pace was up. He had plenty of closing speed to get there. If these horses aren't burnt out coming around that mile post, he's not getting home in this one, and I don't think they're going to be burnt out. I think they're going to have a nice, easy, like I said, if this is muddy, 48, 2 maybe if it's really slow. And if it does happen to be a faster track, I could see 47 being the number at the half mile on this and a really slow pace. I think the Derby went off. Derby went off at 46-3, and there was a lot of logjam up front in that with everybody trying to scramble. It could have been faster. So Catching Freedom got a nice trip around, got some clear air, ended up 4th in that race. But he's got to have some speed up front for him to be able to reel some people in, and I just don't think he's going to get it here.
All right, fair enough. I have a lot of agreement with you guys there. And I was kind of between Catching Freedom and the Tucson Gold, really. No, it was Just Steel. It was the 15-1. I'm going to side with the better price. I'm probably going to have 5-7-8 for me. I do like Tucson Gold some. Just he is lightly raced, but his buyers and his speed figures, his time form speed figures are definitely going up. Raced 3 times, and like you said, I mean, what a hell of a first race having to go against Sierra Leone, and then you win your second race, and you're not looking too bad in the Louisiana Derby. There, he lost a couple lengths, but this just could be his time to break loose a little bit. So, kind of liking that. Not sure I'm going to construct my ticket, to be honest with you. I don't want to overinvest in this one. I think I'm just going to take it easy so I can play more pick 3s, pick 4s, and pick 5s along with Kanaki over here. I think that'd be a little fun. We'll all message each other and see what we're doing here. Make it more of a day and then just a race. So that's some good stuff here. Well, anything else we missed, guys?
I got one race for you, like I had last show. Hopefully, it doesn't get scratched out of the race I'm talking about the other day this week. But Pimlico Special on Friday. Kings Barnes, the winner of 5 out of 7, took almost 9 months off after coming in 14th in the Kentucky Derby last year. He actually won the Louisiana Derby coming in. Ran on the Pegasus at Monmouth a little bit later, put up a 96. Took 9 months off, and his best 2 speed fingers coming back off the layoff as a 4-year-old. There's a couple different favorites in this one. He is one of them, but I'm going to put him over everything else on some tickets and some heavy wins bet. He is my favorite horse of the weekend, Kings Barnes in the Pimlico Special.
Kings Barnes, what race number is that?
I believe it is the race right before the Black Eyed Susan on Friday.
Okay. So
12th.
12th race, Kings Barnes. All right. Well, hey, we're with you again. So we'll see if we get scratched. And you know what, Shawn? Even though that got scratched, you told me to go on the next favorite. So, and that worked out for us. I ended up betting that. So
yeah,
that was nice. I'll take it.
Hey, sometimes it's good to bet the favorites too, right? You make money on favorites too. You can't always fade them.
What about you, Patrick? Anything else to add?
No, in terms of an overall betting race, this Preakness Stakes doesn't look fantastic by any means. I'm more excited for the Belmont coming up. You got it at Saratoga, shorter distance than normal here, and I think we're going to see a pretty competitive field. So I'm excited for the Belmont next month. But yeah, I haven't kind of gone through the entire card of Friday or Saturday yet, but I'll put something together.
Well, hope Mystic Dan wins so that Belmont becomes even more exciting. So then I'll fade him. Just please don't
Yeah,
rank.
I think we're going to see a big field at the Belmont, which I'm excited for, especially at
I think
Saratoga.
so too. Yep.
Absolutely. It's just going to
I
be
think
such a different
Booth will
story.
end up in that race being scratched here. I think Sierra Leone's coming back. That is going to be the field we should have got at the Derby if Baffert didn't juice all his horses at a time. So it's going to be a great race at Belmont.
Yeah.
Is the Japanese horse coming back?
I have not seen anything.
Okay. Yeah, it'd be nice if Forever Young does come back too. That would be it. Bring back the party before the Breeders' Cup, right? Bring him back for this one. We'll do it.
He may come back for the Breeders, if anything. If you have a feeling.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But
he was so close on that one. All right, guys, great stuff here. Where could we get your great information this weekend, Shawn?
So I'll have a real short Preakness article out. I'm not going to be able to do every race. I got some family stuff going on Friday night. But if you're interested in some capping or some picks, reach out to me directly on Twitter. I'll throw them up. I always give out my horse racing picks for the big weekends for no charge, because I think everybody should enjoy horse racing, even if they don't want to do the capping, and have something to bet on. So you can find all my stuff at theoddsbreakers.com. I'm also heavily involved in MLB this time of year, both in fantasy baseball and in direct sports betting through the Odds Breakers. So if you got any questions about MLB, also feel free to reach out. There's some good games this weekend. Today was a pretty mild slate. I didn't have any plays, but I already got 2 picks for tomorrow. So we're ready to rock and roll on MLB all weekend long. Twitter at the Great Knoche and the oddsbreakers.com.
Shawn, what about you? I mean, Patrick, what about you?
Yeah, as always, you can find me on Twitter at Gator Betting and on Instagram at Gator Sports Betting. The Black Eyed Susan and Preakness article should be up probably later tonight. Just wrapping some things up now, so we'll have those plays out soon. NHL playoffs are underway right now. We still got a good game in the West Coast right now. Edmonton, Vancouver. That series is tied up at 2. So if you're still up for the next few hours, recommend turning that one on. And as always, I mean, tomorrow we got a great slate with Boston, Florida. We'll see if Florida can finally kind of close this series out. And then we got Colorado, Dallas, where Dallas looks to kind of advance to the Western Conference Finals for the first time in a long time. Colorado banged up squad, so we'll see what happens. But as always, the NHL playoffs are extremely exciting, and I'll have some more plays out tomorrow.
And Patrick on fire in the NHL, Shawn on fire in Major League Baseball. Make sure you guys check them out for all they have to offer. Everything at theoddsbreakers.com. Thank you guys so much for listening to this show. If you have any questions for us, feel free to tweet us at the Oddsbreakers. Email us at info@theoddsbreakers.com. Enjoy all the games this week. Enjoy the races and go get some winners.
Thanks.